Welcome, listener, to Indie Spotlight, where you're about to learn whether you have the grit to take on the terrors of the Weird West. I will be your GM, Sizer. High noon, and the sun beats down upon you like the devil's own oven. You can't help the sweat that drips down your nose as you eye your opponent on the other side of the town square. Which one of their three arms are they going to use to draw the iron strap to their hip? You've been known to be quick on the trigger, but are you fast enough for the Indie Spotlight Lightning Round? Guest, what's your name?
Stephen Alexander.
What are your pronouns, Stephen?
He, him.
Where do you live?
I live on the Pacific Ocean. I am a liveaboard on a boat in California.
That's right. That I've never seen that in your bio. That's cool. What kind of creative are you, Stephen?
I am a writer and designer
Cool.
of the game.
And what is your project that we're talking about today?
We're talking about Huckleberry, a Weird West RPG. It's the title's good enough. That's fine.
Yep. Welcome to Indie Spotlight, Stephen. And actually, my very first question is, what is Huckleberry?
It's a rules lean, I like to call it. It's not crunchy by any means, but it's also not like OSR light. Game set in the mythology of the American Old West. It is a game about these occult bounty hunters named Mavericks who take on bounties to hunt down monsters. So scenarios start with an investigation of sorts, and then the tension builds into a climactic showdown where you're just firing 6-shooters into monsters.
Cool. And what was the inspiration for this game? Like, what media have you drawn on to bring all the elements together?
Our two primary cultural touchstones are Tombstone and Hellboy.
Yeah.
It's got all the action and adventure of Tombstone, and I love doing my best Val Kilmer Doc Holliday impression, which is a very good.
Yeah.
And I also love the folkloric dread of Hellboy and like the investigation that comes into that, and then of course punching the monster.
Yeah, maybe we can try and envision Ron Perlman saying, "I'll be your Huckleberry," or something, or "I'm your Huckleberry."
Is he on Cameo?
I'm your Huckleberry. Yeah. That is the first thing that popped into my head when I first heard the name of this game. That famous line from Tombstone.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's where we got the name from.
Yeah, no, it's a good name. I like it. So yeah, Mike Mignola. I'm a big Hellboy fan. It was back, I had gotten out of reading comic books after I was a kid. At my teenage years, I kind of skipped that. But then back in my 20s, I started reading again, and Hellboy was one of the first ones I picked up. So I've got some very fond memories of it. I think it works well for a Western, too. I don't know what it is about Hellboy, but I can definitely see him. In fact, there's probably some art of him, wearing a duster and a cowboy hat,
Yeah, my relationship with Hellboy is similar. I grew up reading superhero comics, and I took a little bit of a break from comics in general. And when I got back into them, Hellboy was one of the first ones that had me hooked again. And there are a couple stories where Hellboy in Mexico, and there's various stories in the Southwest where it does get a little westerny already. So yeah, it's ripe for the mixing.
For sure. And one thing I noticed about the art, which I'm pulling up a few pieces of now, is that it looks the artist looks very comic book inspired, A lot of these pieces look like splash pages, or you got characters doing sort of superheroic poses here and there. Who is the artist behind the art of Huckleberry, or is there more than one? It looks like a pretty unified style to me, though. So
we have one artist, one illustrator through all of Huckleberry, all of our scenarios, and the core book. His name is George Sellis. He is a master of his craft. He's not on social media a lot, so if you want to check him out, you have to go to georgesellis.com. But we are very fortunate to have partnered with him. And yeah, like you said, he does have a sort of comic booky style. I know that he got started as a caricature artist. That was one of his earliest gigs, doing art. And I think
Cool.
some of those like thick, heavy lines like still show in his later work. He really loves the ink, and I love that style. Being a Mignola fan as well. So it really is awesome to have him create like the face of our game.
Okay, well, we'll definitely put his website in the show notes. But let's get back to talking about the setting and so forth. So, how much research did you do about like Western expansion when you were going to? How much? I guess maybe the question is more like how much of the real West is in the DNA of this game.
Great question. I I love to do research. I love reading about history. I love going down all those little rabbit holes. So especially during the early days of Huckleberry, that was my way to procrastinate from actually working.
Mm-hmm.
Would be doing research, and I'm still being productive, is what I get to tell myself.
Yep.
So many hours. Huckleberry itself, the the amount of research I did was mostly on history of the West because I grew up with Westerns as a genre. So it wasn't like I needed to really delve too much into that genre to really kind of have a feel for it. But I really wanted to do a lot more into the actual Western history. Huckleberry itself is not a game that is extremely serious in that sense.
Mm.
It has a very casual approach to everything. We're shooting monsters here.
Right.
That's the idea of the game, and it doesn't necessarily take itself very seriously. But I was worried about that casual approach to the Western genre and how it has so much. It's got a lot of baggage.
Sure.
And I didn't want that same casual approach to be in our design or our setting of the game. So I wanted to make sure that we had a solid foundation for gamers to be casual about it and have like a good platform to go off of.
Yeah, and that's a good idea. I mean, I think you and we talked about this a little bit. We've had some of the same baggage with a pirate game and with a western. We had the baggage of like colonialism or manifest destiny in the case of a western. So how did you approach that with your setting design, or how
Yeah,
did you
so
accommodate that? I guess how did you
yeah,
grapple with it?
it it's something I still grapple with. I don't ever want to feel like it's something that's been solved because no matter what, there's always room for improvement. I
Hmm.
am glad of our approach I'm proud of our approach so far. It's been a team effort. We've got two sensitivity consultants who've helped guide us here. Um, but I guess what it comes down to for me was that I deeply feel that Huckleberry should be a game for everyone of every lifestyle, skin color. Like, we
Hmm.
respect you. We want you to feel comfortable at the table. We don't want to cause any sort of scenarios that could create any sort of conflict or otherness uh, based on your heritage, your culture, anything like that. And when it comes to Manifest Destiny, that is inherently opposed to what I want Huckleberry to be. Manifest
Hmm.
Destiny is saying that uh, America is not for everyone. It is only for Americans. That they have a claim to all this land that has so much history and that people were already on it for thousands upon thousands of years and that they were less than. I cannot uh, even come close to embracing that concept, even for trying to gamify it in Huckleberry. So there is no shred of Manifest Destiny in the game. One of the ways we accomplished that is because Huckleberry takes place in an alternate world.
Right.
So Huckleberry is set in the fifth world. You and I, right now, we would be in the fourth world with the North America, the North American continent, and all the history in there. That world has ended in Huckleberry, and various peoples have migrated through caverns, drawing upon mythology and folklore from Southwest America into the fifth world, the final world. And in this
Okay.
world, there was no native population to the fifth world. There are indigenous peoples in the fifth world. Like they were the ones who were first drawn, like the Ashiwi, the Ende. A lot of different people were called into the world, and then European descendants also moved into that world. So in a way, there are like threads of the historical Old West. You know, if you wanted to say that your character is Mexican, that could mean that you're a rather old person who was born in Mexico, or your parents were Mexican. You know, like there are ways that you can still have those touchstones that you would expect to have,
The
but the
cultural
world itself,
milieu of the old west.
yes, yes, exactly. But the world itself, the setting itself, there is no federal government because all these people have migrated relatively recently. The towns are essentially on their own, like they've not created this overarching government. The law only exists as far as a sheriff is willing to ride, and hopefully that sheriff is not corrupt. There are indigenous peoples who have their own settlements and towns who have moved in here. Nomadic indigenous people are there as well. And the idea is that this is all from someone who does not have a PhD in very serious things. So this is
Mhm.
just the best we could try to frame it for gaming. But
Right.
there is no population pressure in the same way that like forced manifest destiny and things like that, that not necessarily forced it, but were used as justification. So there is, we will never feature any sort of like fighting over land between cultures and things like that. It's entirely meant to give a place where you can have a six shooter, you can have a duster and a fun hat, and you can fight a
Mhm.
monster, and you don't have to worry too much about the rest because we tried to create a foundation that was welcoming to everyone.
Okay, and I can certainly appreciate that. So you heard it here, folks. You know, this is a Weird West game for everybody. So talking about no, okay. So getting into like the system of the game, what kind of player options are there? I mean, I've seen what your I'll pop up what the different player characters look like in this sort of cemetery splash page. I've definitely liked the sort of devil guy with the sort of old Nick look and the mustache. You know, he's probably been my favorite of the PCs here. But you've got your five archetypes there. What kinds of things can players expect to do, or be able to make their characters out of?
Yeah, good question. So Huckleberry is classless. There are no classes, there are no archetypes you choose. Instead, you create your character a la carte by choosing traits from different categories. There's
Hmm.
blood, flesh, disposition, and calling. Blood represents like traits that you've inherited from your parents and ancestors. Uh, the flesh is a physical trait that's unique to you. Disposition is like your personality, and a calling is a like occupational skill that you've picked up along the way. So using those four traits as your base, you can create pretty much whatever archetype you feel you want to play.
And it looks like you've
Excuse me,
got.
sorry.
No, you're good. It looks like we have both supernatural and kind of weird science origins for the characters here. Can you say anything about that in
Yeah.
particular?
So one of the things that we push very heavily when creating a character is that the appearance of your character, the fluff of your character is entirely up to you. So like in terms of like D&D, if you were trying to build an elf, you would choose the elf ancestry. Well, in Huckleberry, you would choose long-lived and, like graceful or something along those
Hmm.
lines. And with that, you can choose to be as wild in appearance or as natural appearance as you would like to be. So, like you were mentioning our art there, we've got our Buffalo Man. We have a lot of characters that are like have certain like animals that they kind of take after. Like we've introduced some art that has a man that looks very bat-like. We've got one that looks like a snake, but then there are also people that look relatively normal. Like our Pyro is a relatively normal looking person, but they still have supernatural abilities. They can have fire that like comes out of their hands and things like that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the appearance of your character and how your powers manifest, entirely up to you. We don't prescribe any sort of fluff. We only have the mechanics for you to pick from a la carte.
Cool. So yeah, just kind of put together the kind of whatever appeals to you, like mechanically or aesthetically, to put
Yes,
to
yes.
create your character.
And
And
you did ask about weird science too. I'm sorry. As to that, that's like how you would choose the fluff of your character. Like we do have a trait that's called Ironclad that like has sort of like cyborg-esque mechanics to it, but you could very much choose like the trait Bullheaded, and you could say that you have a literal metal plate built into your head, and you have a charge attack with that metal plate. So, however you want to flavor it, you're very much welcome to do.
cool. I like that kind of that setup, And is there a way to? We'll maybe talk about that down the road. Can you? So, what is the weird? And you spell it WYRD. And I know it plays into the kind of threats that you face, the kind of bounties that your Mavericks are going to be going after. But what is it? What does it do?
Yes, so the weird is actually a mispronunciation of an Old English or Norse word. Word is how a lot of linguists will get annoyed with me for purposefully mispronouncing this. So I just have to say now that I know how it's supposed to be. And the word weird means fate, is essentially what it translates to, like your destiny.
Okay.
And I kind of have it as a play on words there because in our setting, the weird is this supernatural corruption, sort of like this meta magical like radiation that everything succumbs to over time. If you're exposed to it too much, it will hasten your demise. So in that way, it is your fate. The setting is a very tragic place. The weird will mutate people, it will mutate animals, and everyone is doomed to this calamity of weird, unless the Mavericks can somehow make it better.
Okay. And is there so it for maybe without revealing exactly what it is, but if you were to pick up Huckleberry, are there some GM secrets about what's going on with the weird and maybe how the PCs might be able to finally put an end to it? Or
So we make it very explicit that the weird cannot be stopped. It can only be minimized, essentially. You can try to slow down its effect, but no matter what, it's a force of nature.
okay.
It if a tsunami's coming towards your coast, you can put up barrier walls that will be able to help minimize it, but you can't actually prevent that tsunami. Same thing with the weird. It will always be there. It's this natural force. You can try to lessen its presence in certain places, and some places have a very high presence of weird, like these hotbeds of corruption. Those are the places where Mavericks often go to or are sent to try and minimize those hotbeds of corruption. So in a way, Mavericks can like make the world around them a better place, but it's always the immediate world around them. It's not ever going to be like Mavericks don't become gods. They're not able to literally save the entire world. It's all about making their home, their community, a better place for them and their neighbors.
Right, and you put a special mention in the press notes about how downtime is built into the system, and it's often sort of centered around a particular settlement that the PCs call home. So how does downtime work in Huckleberry? Because that intrigues me, because it sounds like a lot of time can pass during a downtime, like maybe months or
Yeah.
years even.
Yeah, so the Western genre should be a slow genre. Things happen over a long period of time, and the downtime mechanic is how we kind of embrace that aspect of it. Uh, it is really tied with the actual bounty mechanics as well. Like a bounty lasts for a stretch of time. We call it a stretch, and there are 6 stretches a season. A downtime, a pastime, also lasts for a stretch of time. So it's sort of assumed that you will go on a bounty and then you'll have time off. You'll go on another bounty, have time off. It's fluid. You can do multiple bounties in a row, do multiple downtimes in a row, things like that. But it's uh, presumed that there will be time off, that
Hmm.
characters will go back home. They'll have these moments of quiet reflection. They can do different activities during their downtime, from gambling at a saloon to try to earn a little bit more money, or like training. You can increase your skills this way. You can try to become a better academic. You can try to become a better sharpshooter, things like that. You can also gain new traits. So
Hmm.
you can gain a legendary trait. And the idea is that something about all of these bounties that you're going on is building up your reputation. And once your
Ah.
reputation unlocks, you become that legend that everyone thinks you are. So downtime is really our progression, our character progression mechanic. It's locked behind these moments, these actual scenes that you role play out of quiet reflection. And through that, over the course of a campaign, like it could be a year that passes, a season that passes, it could be years that pass based on however the GM and the players decide to do it. But it will never be like, there are some campaigns, high fantasy campaigns, where you go from being nobodies, and then in like 7 to 8 days, you're fighting gods and you've are saving the world. It will never
Right.
be that high speed. It is meant to have a purposeful cadence to things.
And I like that. I like a more personal stories in, I guess you could probably call this like a fantasy type game because it does have, strange magics and things like that in it. It doesn't always have to be about saving the world. Sometimes it's just about saving the people around you. Or
Yeah, and we another mechanic that kind of ties into those downtime is that we have a something called your hole in the wall. It's essentially the Mavericks' hometown, their stronghold, their base. It could be anything from an actual town. It could just be a ranch that they frequent, that they always go to in between bounties. It could be a caravan of wagons. If you're going on a cattle drive, and then in between bounties, you always come back to this caravan that's still moving. But the point is that this is a central location that the Mavericks call home, that they are
hmm,
invested in, and that is a big reason why they go out and perform these bounties, because they have a place to come home to that they need to protect. They want the world around this home to be better, and the we actually have just unlocked in our Backerkit campaign a stretch goal that will have an entire chapter dedicated to the hole in the wall. It's being
okay.
designed by Kiana Shaw and Dylan Grinder, two very talented designers. I'm very excited to have them on board. And they are fleshing out the mechanics for how the bounties can have natural consequences to your hole in the wall, helping it grow and expand, or if you're not doing very well, the negative consequences that will happen. So I'm
Mm,
very excited to be releasing that soon.
cool. Looking forward to seeing, and how many more stretch goals have you got there, Steven, that we're still looking for?
So right now we have two more that are announced. We just hit a stretch goal again yesterday. So we just unlocked a new bounty for our bounty book. So that went from 7 to 8. Our next two stretch goals are also additional bounties, so we could have a total of 10 bounties in the supplemental book. And then I've
Cool.
got one more stretch goal that's not been revealed yet. I'm not quite ready to say it, but it was just confirmed today, and I'm very excited for it.
Okay, glad to hear it. Looking forward to seeing you realize all those goals here. Hopefully, you've
Thank
got
you. It's been
about
a wild ride.
yeah. Are you about 15 days left or so?
Yeah, yeah, just over 2 weeks. So we're getting
Okay,
towards the end game now. We're at the turning point,
cool,
and
folks.
it's been wonderful.
Folks, so get out there and you'll find the link in the description, of course, where you can go and back. You can go back Huckleberry. So definitely check it out. But let's get back to talking about the game itself. So if there can be set, if there's there's an oft talked about continuum between like simulationist games and narrative focused games, and Huckleberry seems to be a little more towards the narrative focused end. So why go that particular route with this game?
So it goes back to the essentially the games that I've enjoyed playing the most. I play games on a Twitch channel called Adventures in Lollygagging,
Hmm.
and we play all sorts of indie games. But because we play so many indie games, it tends to be that we go towards the ones that are a little bit more rules lean. Because you can't learn a new encyclopedia every couple months. It's just
Right.
it's a lot to do. Not that I have anything against crunchy games, I do enjoy them, but it goes back to wanting to embrace those mechanics that allow the story to flourish.
Hmm.
And Huckleberry, it plays, I think, very similar to a traditional RPG. It's not like Powered by the Apocalypse where you have to reframe like how you think of moves or anything like that. You in Huckleberry, you roll to attack, you roll to defend. But we have a mechanic called aces that are a sort of meta currency. They constantly flow. You're constantly earning new ones, constantly spending them. And those aces allow you to perform little flourishes or stunts during your action. And that's where the narrative focus really comes into play. Because if we were trying to go simulationist, trying to justify like how these aces allow you to get a couple extra feet in a 6 second turn wouldn't quite make
Hmm.
sense. We don't worry about turns being 6 seconds. We want to think about this as like if we were watching a TV show or a movie. We want to really focus on the story beats, the most important things, rather than like the physics of the game. Huckleberry just isn't a physics simulator. I don't know enough about physics to do that.
Hmm.
So I go for the story because that's what appeals to me the most.
Cool. Yeah, looks and I too enjoy like both types of games. But I think you're right. I think the way you described it, especially with the downtime aspect, with with some of the cinematic things that I've seen in the art, uh, it does feel a little bit better than tacking around on a battle mat. So yeah. So one thing, I was just talking to someone about this interview before this, and he said, "Well, I wonder why they're using Backerkit. I don't even know whether to use Backerkit or Kickstarter these days. So, why Backerkit? Why go with them for this project?"
I'm honestly surprised how often I get this question. It's not a
Yeah.
question that I expected, but I've had to answer it several times in the past couple weeks, and I wish I had a better answer. But my primary reason, I've got two, but my primary reason was that a lot of the games that I've been backing lately, the ones that I've been excited about that are on crowdfunding, have been on Backerkit.
Cool.
It seems like there are some really cool indie games that are moving towards that platform. And I guess I just wanted to be, at the table with the cool kids, like
Yeah.
that's where the designers that I really have been excited about have been. And that was a big reason. I've been on that platform more than I've been on Kickstarter lately. I'm a serial crowdfunder. I back everyone and everything. So I'm still on Kickstarter quite a bit, but the ones that have really gotten me excited have been on Backerkit. And then the second reason is a little bit more of a real reason.
Mm.
When I was first setting up the crowdfunder for Huckleberry, I actually did try to set it up on both Kickstarter and Backerkit. And Kickstarter's UI just didn't feel, it felt a little cumbersome as a creator.
Okay.
This was just my experience with it. And a lot of people probably have a lot more experience with Kickstarter where they'd be able to handle it better. For me, I just didn't quite click with it. Whereas the Backerkit I did. And I know that Backerkit, being that it was a pledge manager before a crowdfunding site, has that post campaign support built in.
Mm.
It felt like it was a good reason to go with that.
Okay. Well, I definitely, and whatever you're doing with advertising with it seems to be working because I've been seeing, I mean, I'm on Facebook a few times a day and I've definitely been seeing the ads for it. So,
So I do not know that much about advertising. I really don't. I am very fortunate I was able to partner with Backerkit's in-house marketing service.
oh, okay.
They have been fantastic. Essentially, they they handle building the campaigns for ads. I have to
Okay.
provide them the assets. I have to provide the images, things like that. But then they can use their like customer lists, because they have a lot of information about crowdfunding and who's like interested in crowdfunding. So they get a slight commission on the pledges that they are able to pull in. And then I don't have to worry about the marketing. I can just focus on the actual game, which, I'm a designer. I'm not a
Yeah.
salesperson. So it's a win-win for both of us.
Oh, and man, listeners, let me tell you what. Having to be your own marketing department, having to do the whole thing when you're an indie developer, it can be a lot. It
It's
can be a
hard.
lot. Especially
I'm
when.
fortunate because in the way that I started with Huckleberry is that we did an early access period for a year. So I had a long runway to really crystallize my message and
Yeah.
really like focus on like my marketing. The thing that I have built now is not what I had a year and a half ago.
Hmm.
Like with any of the marketing and the messaging, it's completely changed as I've learned a lot. But man, did I not realize how much there would be to learn.
Okay. Yeah, and there's a reason why people like go to have degrees in this thing because it's so much there. All right. Well, Huckleberry looks great, but Steven, are there any other projects that you've worked on in the past that you can tell us about?
So this is my first game that I've published. I
Oh,
have
okay.
always been a tinkerer of sorts, and I have created other systems, but I've never published any of them.
Hmm.
And it goes back for decades now. I used to play, like a lot of people, D&D was my entry. In D&D third edition, there was just an explosion of homebrew content, of
Oh, yeah.
indie published content. I always wanted to get in on that. I remember when they were doing the search for the new campaign setting that ended up being Eberron.
Eberron. Yep.
So I have a notebook full of like this is going to be this is going to be the next WotC campaign setting. This is my first published credit to answer your question, but it's been a long journey to get here.
Yeah. No, same with me. Skies of Fortune, been working on it for a long time. Hopefully, it'll get to the gate eventually. But we're you got to start somewhere, right? And you're doing sounds like you're doing a bang up job on this one from everything I've seen. So
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah. So any other projects you've got in the pipeline that you might be able to tell us a little bit about today? Any teases? I don't know.
I'm not a marketer, so I don't actually have the rules that I can't talk about anything.
Okay. Yep.
Uh, so uh, yeah, I don't have anything officially planned. After this,
Okay.
my main priority, because I'm the driving force of Huckleberry. There is a team behind it of very talented creatives, but I'm the one that's like handling the logistics, making sure that like fulfillment goes properly, things like that. That's going to be my primary focus for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
My next project, I would like it to be a full campaign for Huckleberry.
Ooh.
I might be the primary writer, or I might be co-writer on that. Have not figured it out. I would love to work with a professional writer uh, and see like what kind of creativity they can bring to Huckleberry as well. Uh, and then if that goes well, I would absolutely love to make other systems. There's one system that's been bouncing around my head recently. Like I said, I live on a boat, and being in like the horror western genre, I was just thinking of like the exact opposite of that. And I would like to have this sort of cozy like red wall marine life, like these
Ah. Okay.
coastal critters on like rafts and boats in their own like little harbor. Something a little bit more cozy is the right word for it. Something that
Yeah.
my wife would enjoy playing. She doesn't like horror. So if I could get like tap into that root and Redwall, that'd be a lot of fun for me.
Yeah. That does sound nice. I'm just trying to think if there's. Yeah. I'm not sure that if Critters on the Coast has really been done. Not to my knowledge has really been done. Hey, there's your name, by the way. Critters on the Coast.
That's pretty good. I took a mental note immediately.
All right. So let's just swing back to Huckleberry. There's just one thing that always intrigues me about the Western genre, right? And that's it's kind of in some ways it used to be a huge force in culture, in like the 50s and the 60s, probably before that too. All the great Western actors and directors, spaghetti westerns used to just be a huge cultural force, and we still get westerns every now and again. They've kind of gone away though. So what do you think it is that keeps people coming back to this like time and place to kind of play around in these, I don't want to say waters, but in these deserts, in these high plains,
When it comes to gaming, I think gamers are just happy to talk in a funny voice and pretend that they're firing a gun and wearing a funny hat. When it comes to like actual culture, always coming back to the Western, for me, I think it's very much because Westerns allow for very character-driven stories, these very personal stories that feel very grounded. If there is a character, the trope of like a rancher that can't afford their ranch anymore because it hasn't rained. Most of us have not had a ranch where we had to deal with the drought making us, struggle to get by. But a lot of us can relate to drowning in credit card bills or something like that, of having some other sort of economic burden upon us. So I think it's because there's so many analogs to different types of Westerns that just hook you in a very personal way.
Right.
That make it very easy to tell these stories. And I also think that's why the Western genre evolved so much, like you were saying, from the 40s, 50s, 60s towards like 70s when it started to become, Westerns became like there were acid Westerns that were coming out, and they had anti-heroes instead of heroes. It was no longer John Wayne who's perfect in every way, but they were flawed characters. They were people who struggled and had problems. And I think it's because those were the stories that resonate with us more, rather than the sort of like we stopped buying into the sort of mythology propaganda of the classic Western, and we wanted stuff that felt a little bit more real and grounded. And it's compelling. Like Unforgiven, there are very flawed characters on all sides of those stories, and you're rooting for some of them despite knowing that you shouldn't be rooting for them. William Money, he's killed women and children and anything else that's crawled. And he's not a good character, but you still root for him because you understand, they killed his friend Ned. You want justice, you want vengeance.
Yeah.
There's a lot of emotions to tap into there that a lot of people can relate to.
There definitely is. And you're right. It's the personal stories that really, I think, these days bring it back to it. Like shows like Gunsmoke, the more anti-Western sensibilities of Unforgiven. It's just keeps us coming back. Something about being free on a horse, having a funny hat, riding across the plains.
Who doesn't love the idea of just being able to saddle up and ride away from all your problems, just ride off into the sunset where it's better on the other side?
Absolutely. So I think, folks, we can leave you on that note for tonight. The game is Huckleberry. It is on Backerkit. You can find a link in the description here. Go back it today. As for me, I'm your host, Sizer of Indie Spotlight. If you liked what you see here, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll have more great indie games coming your way in the near future. My guest has been Steven, designer of Huckleberry. Thank you for being here, and folks, we will see you on the next one. Adios.